to the recording. So hello everybody. This is a conversation organized by, we call it Szülőként másképp könnyedén, a group that Esther and I are running in Hungarian. It's a Facebook group for parenting and people to use the Access tools. And we sometimes have conversations with different people, CFs, and I've been wanting to invite you for a conversation for this group for a while now, but I just recently had this awareness that now is the time. And thank you for coming, Anthony. And
Thanks for inviting.
I think a lot of people know you, but for those who are not so involved in Access, I would just like to say a few words about you. Or do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. No, you can say it.
Yes, so we have Anthony, who has been in Access for over 10 years. I don't know exactly how long. And you are
13 years.
13 years. You're an international certified facilitator. You have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And I think the boys are grown up, basically.
Pretty much 24 and 22.
Yes, that's grown up. Okay. In Hungarian, after 18, it's grown up, legally grown up. I know it's 21 for you. So you have 3 kids and you've been intensively using the Access tools in your private life and with the kids. And what I love about you, Anthony, about this topic is that you're very open to talk about your family life and your kids, even in any other call or any other classes that you do. And I love your vulnerability about this topic, and you keep bringing up different things, whatever is going on with you, with the kids. And in your latest monthly call, you actually had some recognition, some new awarenesses about the tools and the kids. So that's when I went like, fuck, we need to talk about this in this group.
Yeah.
But we can talk about anything else as well. So what I am most interested in is that if we could just give a little bit of recap of how old were the kids when you started using Access, and just to give us a little bit of history and how things changed with the tools, and before the Access tools and after the Access tools.
Sure. Well, the kids were, so my very first bars class was in January of 2012. So that's, so how many years ago would that be? 13. It'll be 13 years ago, right? Yeah. So, and it was about 9 months after their mom had committed suicide. She had been struggling with bipolar disorder, and she was 30 years old at the time. I was 41. And when I met her, I knew she had been struggling with this mental health issue. So, you know, having the savior complex as I did, and being a holistic chiropractor, at that time I was doing metaphysical stuff. Now we're talking about the year 2000, basically, or 2001. And it was kind of cute that I was like, she was so beautiful, so intelligent. And I was like, I don't know if I want to try to save her. I actually thought these thoughts. I'm like, I don't know if I want to save her, date her, or both.
I think it was both.
Time, it was. Yeah. And so, and at that time, and it was really cute because within like the first half an hour, she basically told me her whole life story. She even told me she had bipolar disorder. She told me she was on Prozac. And I'm like, I can help you. I'm doing metaphysical work and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So both her and I started on this 10-year journey. And in that process, when I had met her, she already had my older son, who was 8 months old at the time. And then I went on to adopt him. And then we had the 2 other kids, my second son, and then my daughter. But I didn't really know what the fuck I was dealing with the whole bipolar thing. I don't wish that on anybody. And, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself. And so I had 10 years of dealing with that, being a parent, trying to stop this mental illness from happening. We did metaphysics, that didn't work. Then we had a guru That didn't work. Then we were involved in the church for 5.5 years. And then she also did AA, the 12-step program, right? And that seemed to work. She was actually sane,
Wow.
stable, sober for 5.5 years. And then I'll never forget that one day, all of a sudden, she starts having panic attacks.
Mm.
How does somebody have a panic attack for no reason? There was no like external stimuli.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I didn't have access at the time, right? But according to this reality, the medical community says, well, that's just the nature of the illness. It can go away and then it can come back whenever it feels like it. But I'm like, something had to trigger it. So anyway, that was her third episode. She had lost hope because it came back. At that time, we were in the church. So she figured if Jesus couldn't help her, then no one can. So she decided to take her life. But she also said the day before she died, I don't want you and the kids to have to go through this. And I said, it's okay. I'll deal with one bad year for 5.5 good years because, like I said, she was sane, stable, and sober with no medicines for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
So I said, just let it run its course. So anyway, so she commits suicide. And then 9 months later is when I learned about access consciousness bars. And at that point, I pretty much only kept going because the boys really liked going to the classes. And I was like, if nothing else, I might be a lost cause because I had tried so many other healing modalities just for my own personal stuff. But maybe I can stop this mental illness stuff going to the next generation. And then my very third bars class, I'll never forget, it was March of 2012. It was like I got a brand new brain. I was actually happy. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not supposed to be this happy after only 11 months after their mom died.
Yeah.
So 5.5 years went by. I was a single, father. I was doing access consciousness. I was putting the kids in the car wherever we can drive to. I didn't really have enough money to travel and fly to places and things like that. And then luckily for me along the way is like Gary Douglas recognized that I had a capacity with the SOP energies. For those people who don't know, it's just another tool that we have in Access that's available for you to help you to access more of you in ways you never could in any other modality or traditional method. Anyway, so it changed my life. And it was like everything that I had ever dreamed about in my life, like traveling the world, meeting beautiful people like you that are choosing consciousness, who want something more than what this reality is presenting itself as. All those things were starting to show up. And it's because of the tools. The tools started to allow me to access more of me. Now, it was such a huge positive influence on the kids when they were younger. Okay. Now, I'm going to look, I'm probably one of the most honest people you'll ever fucking meet. Okay. And and I'm also a very intense person. And so when their mom died, I literally made a vow. I'm like, I am not going to let what happened to their mother happen to my children. So like I was on a mission to prevent mental illness and bipolar. So I educated my kids. I educated them about drugs. I told them what their mother did that day. I didn't wait. I didn't lie and tell them some fake story like, oh, mommy just went to sleep. I was like, your mom took her own life. I said her brain was out of control. Okay. And then every step of the way, I gave them more information and more information and more information. I educated my kids about epigenetics, like in this reality, like, oh, well, if your mother has it or your father has it, well, then you can get it. Well, that's only true if you create the same environment for those genes to express itself. So I taught my children about epigenetics, okay? Whereas if you give the same environment, then that gene, so I'm like, don't do drugs, you guys. you're not going to be able to do drugs because you don't know. You may release that gene, you know? So they were wonderful. I would take them to therapy, and the therapist would say things like, I don't know what you're doing at home, but keep doing it. They don't really need to be here.
But that
But then,
was amazing to hear, no?
yeah, it was
Way
amazing.
back
But then,
when.
yeah, but then it didn't stay that way, unfortunately. Then they became teenagers, you know, and then they discovered the vagina and sex and drugs and rock and roll. And I'm like, you guys, you can't be normal. You don't, you know, and then so I start, you know, so they started at different times, especially the boys, they just being humanoid. When you tell a humanoid child not to do something, even if it means the death of them, they're going to choose it anyway. So I had to sit there and watch them create shitstorms for themselves.
Are they still
And
creating shitstorms?
no, not right now. But they've
Good.
had to, thank God, but they've had to actually hit bottom. I'm like, you had to choose that? For real? After everything? And I can say like I felt like I failed, but I know I didn't because I did everything I knew to do. I think my biggest, if I had to say what I could have done differently, is maybe not be so paranoid.
So intense.
Yeah, so intense. And as you can see, as I talk about it, I'm super intense, but that's just me, right? I'm an intense person. And so I think a lot of my parenting was from that space of PTSD and fear. And you have to keep in mind, I'm going through the tools myself, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, and I think I was so intense, they needed to separate from the tools to find their own reality, even if it meant them destroying themselves. And so, yeah, it's been really difficult to watch them basically make choices that were destructive. And one of the tools we learn in Access when you first come to Access is living in an as interesting point of view so that you can be an allowance of what people choose. And I'll tell you, that's probably the number one area where I failed as a parent. I could do it with my clients, I can do it with people I facilitate, but when it came to my children, because I made this vow that they wouldn't struggle with mental health, that yeah, it was very controlling. And then what the one thing I came to recently with the help of Dr. Dane here was because it started to create a lot of anger for me because I'm like, how could they fucking do this when I've done everything I could to prevent all these things and they know that. And I've been angry with them. And then Dane asked me a question. He goes, and another thing that we talk about in Access is you accuse people of what you yourself are doing. So he goes, I go, why am I so angry with them? Right. And he's like, well, are you accusing them of what you yourself are doing? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm just trying to keep them out of mental hospitals and this, that, and the other thing. I'm trying to keep them from being alcoholics and drug addicts like their mom. And he goes, no, he's like, you are trying to control them to being great. You're trying to control them to being greater than you, and you're not even willing to be greater than, you're not willing to be as great as you can be. And I went, oh my fucking God. Because my whole purpose was about them. It was about them. It was about them. It was about them becoming greater than I ever was. Where was I in that equation? Nowhere. And I literally called them up on the phone. This was like 3 weeks ago, Georgie, 3 weeks ago.
It was in Budapest, no? Or after
Yeah,
the Budapest
that's right.
case, yeah.
That's right. I called them on the phone.
November,
I
yeah.
said, I am so sorry that I've been trying to control the shit out of you guys to being great when I'm not even willing to be as great as I am. And I'm like,
What
I'm sorry for putting that pressure on you.
what did they say?
Well, the older one was like, it's all good. It's all good. He's like, thanks for saying that. He goes, no, Dad. He's like, he's like, it's all good. He's like, and then the second one goes, Dad, he's like, thank you for saying that. He's like, because I've been wondering, why are you trying to make us be so amazing? Because they are amazing. He's like, when you're not willing to be as amazing as you can be.
Oh my God, kids are such teachers, aren't they?
Yeah. And I was like, ouch. And you're right. And I said, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to. And then in that moment, I was able to look, I'm still a controlling parent. I'm a mother and father all wrapped into one. Okay. And, yeah, and that's another vow I made. When they died, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to take on the role of mother as well. And my point of view is, even if I bring another woman into my life, I'm still playing the mother role too. And that's how I was. I was just really controlling with that whole thing. And so I said, I'm sorry. And then I finally perceived me being able to sort of like unplug from their universe from at least that perspective. Now, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I still don't call and be like, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Look, I'd be lying if I said that's going to stop. But I'm not pushing that whole thing about, hey, you need to be as great as I know that you can be. Who am I to fucking say that if I'm not even willing to do that for me?
Mm.
I need to be an example of that. I need to be the example of what's possible, not the person who's trying to coach them. They didn't want to coach. They didn't want a motivational speaker as a father. They wanted a father. But I thought that that's what I needed to be a good father. So that's
I
sort of been
think,
like our journey.
yeah, I think a lot of us parents, mothers in particular, we struggle to be like the good mother, the good parent, you know. So we're always in judgment of,
Constantly.
you know,
Of
and
our
in control of ourselves all the time. And it's really hard to come out of that. So, can we talk a bit more about the interesting point of view? Because it keeps popping up with kids in particular, parents and kids in different calls when people ask you questions. So, if you could explain it to everybody a bit more in detail, that why do we need to be an interesting point of view? Let's say if our kid like is totally making choices to destroy themselves, so like, and we see where it is leading to, you know. So that would make us parents even more controlling, or even more,
yeah,
you know, telling them, or even more tight on them, so that we want to
right.
stop it. And then we create the exact opposite effect that
Yep.
we would want.
Yeah. And so that scenario happened exactly for both of the boys in their own different ways. And it was like the very things I was trying to prevent were happening. And so I remember talking with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and he asked me these basic questions that we learn right from the beginning. What is this?
Mm.
What do I do with it? Can I change it? Now, he's like, can you change it right now? When they were going through their shitstorm. And I go, no. Interesting point of view helps you to get into allowance. You see, because if I look at what they're choosing and I start freaking out and going to fear and I start doing drama and trauma, I'm actually contributing to that possible future, right? Because you
To
see what they're
manifest,
choosing.
yeah.
Right. You're seeing what they're choosing, and you're aware of the future that will create. So if I feed that by reacting and not being an interesting point of view, I actually contribute to that future actualizing.
Mm.
But if I, in the moment, as the shitstorm's going on and they're choosing the very thing I tried to prevent for them, if I'm an interesting point of view, like really interesting point of view, and I had to be with that, be like, interesting point of view, I have this point of view, interesting point of view, I have this, and all of a sudden, that one future possibility begins to dissolve, and then there's infinite possibilities of what can actually occur in the future. And I thought, I don't know how else to say it. It was like, I don't want to say like I had a vision of it, but I did. I saw the vision of me reacting, creating one future possibility. And when I started forcing myself to really go, interesting point of view, I have this point of view, interesting point of view that they're choosing this, interesting, all of a sudden that one future possibility dissolved, and then there was space.
Wow.
And in that moment in time, I went, holy shit. You can literally undo the future. You can literally change the outcome of events in the future based on what someone's choosing right now, if you're willing to be an allowance of it.
It's really hard to get to this, to in fact get to the interesting point of view when there is some shit going on with your kid.
It was hard. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life.
How do you do that? You just keep repeating, or you get loads of bars,
I kept repeating that. I kept repeating. I kept getting my bars run, and I kept calling Gary and asking him for facilitation. And he kept getting me to look at different things and look at different things. I mean, this is ongoing, and getting me to look at different things. And I went through probably 3 or 4 months where I was really, 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 it was the most depressed I had ever felt since I started Access.
Mm.
I was really down. And then, you know, I would be lying if I told you that, oh, I can go and be happy regardless of what my kids choose. You know what I mean? I'm not sure I'm in that much allowance.
I'm not sure I'm in that much allowance either with my kids. No.
But I've gotten into allowance so much so that now they come to me to tell me things again, like they used to when they were little.
Wow.
Because you see, even when someone knows that they're destroying their lives, they're not going to go and talk to the one person that was always there for them, preparing them for the very thing that they're creating.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? They're going to avoid me.
Exactly. Or even hide it from you.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And so that was hard. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like your number one fan. I'm the one who's been there for you from the beginning. I'm the one who's still here. Your mother left. Why are you disconnecting from me? And it's really cute because my older son, he's like, Dad, you know, if I had to pick one thing that was the worst thing about you as a parent, he goes, and use one word. He goes, I go, what's that? He goes, annoying. Hey, he didn't say I was abusive. He didn't say I was a gaslighter, right?
What did you want to hear? Come on.
Annoying. Well, I thought he was going to say something. He's like, annoying. You know what? I could live with that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for caring about you so fucking much.
Exactly.
You know?
I'm sorry for loving you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, my parents weren't there for me the way I was for you, but some of it backfired.
Yeah.
Some of it backfired.
Would it help or make things different if we asked more questions rather than, you know, going with
I had a lot
conclusions?
Of course.
I think we tend to jump into conclusions. I tend to jump into conclusions about my kids. I know that. They even tell me, Mom, this is just one little thing, and like you're already, I don't know where with it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No,
So we do jump into conclusions.
I'm sorry. Yeah, with them, I was not in question. I've already decided what they needed to choose so they can be safe and prosperous. That's not a question. Those are all
Yeah.
conclusions.
Yeah. And
Who,
judgment.
yeah, and judgments. Because who am I? Who am I to fucking decide what they need to choose to have more consciousness in their lives? Maybe they do need to destroy themselves before they wake up.
Mm.
You know, especially them. They're very strong-willed. They're very strong-willed. They're very hyper-creative. And who am I to take away from them choice?
Yeah.
Even if it's, I'm trying to present to them what I've decided is the best choice.
Look, I have a lovely life laid out in front of you. And when you talked about, you know, being an interesting point of view and then melting that one possible future that we have concluded, you know, how does our interesting point of view, our choice, weigh up against what they choose?
Well, because they're aware too.
I could be an interesting point of view if he still chooses that shit.
Well, but here's the thing. If we don't react, then what they're choosing doesn't, because they're aware too. They're aware, even if you don't open up your mouth, they can perceive your energy.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you think, even if you don't speak it, what you think comes out of your brain like an electromagnetic wave. That's been proven scientifically. They're your children.
Yeah.
They're going to pick up on those brain waves. So
it
what
really
do they have
works when they are little, you know, like there is this,
It was easy. Well, somebody said a long time ago, he says, when we're children, we're more connected to consciousness than when we grow up and we let this reality start to influence our connection with our, let's say, our divine self. Okay, that's not an Access
That's
term,
not
but I don't know
Access,
why.
but yeah, we all know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't know how else to say it. And what happens is then as we grow up, we get all of this reality's points of view in our head, and we start losing that connection to oneness, to consciousness, to communion. My kids, when they were kids, used to facilitate me. They were clear. But then as they started going through puberty and started dealing with peer pressure and started being aware of other people's realities, that started to get in the way of them having communion and oneness.
Yeah.
And they've had to go on their exploration to quote unquote find themselves, because all they've ever known is what dad's told them.
Yeah.
What they heard in Access. And so if we don't react to what we're choosing, they get to go on that exploration and be like, oh, okay, that choice wasn't so great. What else would I like to choose? But instead, if we're being paranoid, trying to control them and fix them and save them, they have to push you away and keep going in the opposite direction.
They have to reject us to find themselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to be an allowance and an interesting point of view, then that's not a choice that they necessarily need to make. Or they may make that choice, but then they'll get the awareness and they're like, okay, I don't need to choose that. But if you're too busy being up their ass, that may keep them separated from you longer, and it may take longer for them to get the awareness.
Yeah.
I know that when I energetically withdraw from their universe, they reach for me.
How do you do this, energetically withdrawing from their universe?
I gotta create. I gotta be.
I was gonna say, choose yourself and create your life rather than keep going around in your head. What's my kid is doing?
Exactly, because if I create my life, then I become the inspiration of possibilities. It's not like I disconnect and separate, but it's like I don't use all my generative and creative energies to save them.
Yeah, or to create their life, or to control them, or to manage them, or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of us are doing that all the time.
But I thought that being a good parent meant being a good teacher, being a good motivational speaker, inspiring your children to choose greatness, educating them on, okay, if you choose this, this, and this, it's going to create this, this, and this. You know what I mean? Like I did the opposite of what my parents did with me, which was they weren't really involved in my life at all.
But if you think about that, that's also a reaction. I'm doing the exact opposite.
Totally.
Than my
It's a
parents did
judgment.
to me. So that's
Exactly.
a judgment. So I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go the exact opposite way. And you still
Correct.
don't create what you would like to create.
Correct.
But all along, you were convinced that this is going to work.
Correct.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Correct. I never, and this is part of where I was like getting really depressed. I literally was like, I never tried so hard at something and feel like I dynamically failed at it.
I
Like
had that moment with my
Yeah.
son. I totally screwed up his whole life. I had that just recently. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's funny we're having this conversation today because I had a little pissy moment where I was just angry with their mother. I'm like, I'm
Oh.
fucking angry right now because, you know, she left me to deal with their shit by myself.
What if it's not shit?
No, some of it's shit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a judgment. Some of it is shit.
It's just fact. We're
Well,
not judging. We're just
look,
stating facts.
if you get a little poopy in your
This is
underwear,
shit. Yeah.
yeah, if you get a little poopy in your underwear, it's shit and it's gonna smell. That's not a judgment. It's you know, yeah. You know what I mean? And you know, when they self-sabotage themselves, it's shit. And
Yeah.
hey, who knows what will come? But I had to get to what's really helped. The thing that went click was when Dane got me to, because they kept saying you got to withdraw from the universe. You have to withdraw, but I didn't know how to do it. I'm like, how? But when he got me to see where I was angry with them, but I was angry with them because I was accusing them of what I wasn't willing to do for me because I'm too busy trying to save their life.
Yeah.
And then once I started putting attention on me and my creations, it allowed me to give it space. And ever since I've done that, they call me all the time now.
Wow.
Like constantly. I mean, the second son had to move home because he ran out of money. But
that's a good reason to move home.
Yeah. But things are falling back into place for him.
You're not fueling him with money so that, he learns.
No. He's paying everything. I gave him a house to stay, but he went and got a job. He is going to be going to Ireland for 3 months in Utah to film a TV show. He's one of the leads. So that's falling into
When is that?
That will be in April. In
Lovely.
April. And he's one of the 3 leads of this new TV show. And so it's like he's been making different choices and now he's creating his life again. He's rebuilding his life again.
I need to talk to you about that in private after this call because my daughter is there and she's in filming. So let's not forget about that. Yeah.
Great. Cool. Yeah, he'll be in Limerick, Ireland.
Yes, I know Limerick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. So it's amazing when you withdraw and give them space and just support them versus try to fix them and save them. Especially from PTSD.
Yeah. And when you were saying that withdraw from their universe, it's like basically what we're doing or what you've been doing is that instead of creating our own life, we are trying to create their life.
Correct.
So all our energy goes into our kids. And as you said, where am I in this?
Yeah.
Where am I in this? So I think a lot of mothers in particular have this experience that once they have their kids, they kind of lose themselves totally. And then years pass and we go like, shit, what happened here? Where am I?
I know.
So what's the solution? I mean, to a certain degree, when they little, you have to be there.
What would I like to create? What would I like to create? What would I like to add to my life? What would be
Yeah.
fun for me? So what I started doing was I'm like, I still have my chiropractic license, right? I still have time when I'm home and not traveling. And I was like, I went and learned another energetic technique just for the fun of it as a hobby. Like
Well,
I love doing energy with people, right? And it's a completely different technique. And I even talked to Dane about it. He's like, oh, I know that technique. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I'm just doing it for the family. And it's fun for me, and I may offer it to people out in my community and stuff like that. But it was like, that's fun for me. I like being a healer.
mm,
It's fun. It's play for me. It's play for me to activate possibilities in your body and in your being. It's fun for me. And I'm like, I want to get back to studying lots of different techniques because that's interesting to me.
so the question is, what would I like to create with my life?
Right. Yeah. What can I add to my life now? But I literally had empty nest syndrome because my daughter, she's 16. I did. And she's
You-
driving her car and
It's too early for emptiness syndrome.
not for me. She doesn't need me anymore. She has her own car. It's not normal to hold hands in public anymore. She's too old for that. It's like all my babies are not babies,
Mm,
I miss it. I do.
yeah.
I miss it. Trust me, it was really easy when they were little. You can give me 100 children, and then I don't know. My parenting wasn't as good as I had hoped it would be once they became like teenagers and stuff.
Yeah, why does everything change when they hit puberty?
You know why? Because you can't control them anymore, and
I know, yes, exactly. You can't control them anymore. Shit.
Exactly. And it's like things like hormones kick in, and once they find that golden vagina or whatever their flavor of choice is,
Or the golden penis.
or the golden penis. That's right.
Oh, God. Okay, so
So
how is it with the kids now? Are they using Access at all, at any level?
Well, I mean, with us being home, I mean, they'll come to me and be like, I need my bars run. They know better. The one who lives out on his own, they will always have the tools in their awareness. Do they use it the way that I would like them to use it? No. But again, another thing that I learned was I pushed it so hard that again, I have to be space and let them reach for it.
Yeah,
I got to let them
I'm
reach
at the
for it.
same stage, yeah.
And, because when you push, even if it's from the space of caring, they have to separate so they can find their own reality.
Yeah.
But
It's so
it's
easy to
always will
talk
be in
about.
there. This is why we have the dandelion though as the symbol in Access, right? Because really what you're doing is you're sowing the seeds of consciousness.
Yeah.
Is it showing up the way that I would like it to? No, but that's my interesting point of view. I just have to know the seeds of consciousness and these magical tools have been planted in their universe. Now it's up to them. I got to be an allowance of how it all shows up.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be in an allowance because so many times we want to prove that we were right and what I concluded will happen, and we are still doing those mistakes to prove that I was right.
Yeah, well, I knew better not to actually say that, but thank God. I basically what I would do is be like, okay, cool. So what awarenesses have you received from that choice?
You
And
actually ask your kids this?
yeah. Well, if they're calling me, so when I finally give them space, they'll actually call me and ask me for advice, right? So the old me would have been like, I fucking told you.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity to not go there, but this is an opportunity to create consciousness, right? So how do we create consciousness? Is you ask the question. Okay, cool. Well, what did that choice create? And shut up. Shut the fuck up.
That is very hard to do for us as parents, to shut the fuck up.
It's hard for me to fucking do, as you can tell. I can talk a lot.
So
The
can
poor
I.
translators, right? You know, some
Christy's
parents
doing
know
fine. Don't worry about her. She's great.
they're doing great, but I'm just saying it's hard to me to shut the fuck up. So, but yeah, it's like, what did that choice create? And then you let that question, even if they don't answer you in that moment, that question echoes in their universe
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. How much access talk do you do with them?
Never. Never. In the beginning, I did. And my daughter finally called me out on it about 2 years ago. She's like, I don't want you to tell me it doesn't belong to me. I just want you to listen. She's like, I can't take this access speak. You're just as bad as my religious relatives.
Do you have religious relatives?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm like, you
I'm
know
sorry.
what? I'm like, you're right. I try to defend it. I'm like, I just don't want you guys to be fucked up like your mom. You know? And I'm like, and I don't want you to be fucking stupid in school like I was, you know what I mean? And like, you know, I'm like, you want to be able to master the reality beyond this reality, but also this reality too, so you have the best of all worlds. You know?
Oh my
So I
God.
stopped doing that, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. I keep my mouth shut as best as I can. Look, I'm not perfect, but I don't do access speak anymore. I stopped. And Julia was like
Yes.
even more annoying with fucking
Yes,
access speak.
I actually I was thinking of this question to ask how much access speak and talking you do with your kids, because like you live with Julia. I mean it's
Yeah. No, it was annoying. She was
unavoidable,
more
kind
annoying than
of.
I was. She was
Okay,
more,
so
but we stopped now.
she
We
was
don't do
also
that
told
anymore.
to not do it. Okay.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
told to stop. Yeah, because the access speak is annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't do that with anybody else. It's weird. I only did it with them, which is weird. I don't even do it with you guys.
Yeah.
I only,
And
I give you a tool.
Sometimes even when you facilitate and you ask a question in your monthly calls or in any other calls,
Correct.
then you actually do tell the person, now don't give me access bullshit, just say it in normal language.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't do it I didn't do it with them for some reason.
You did it with your kids, poor kids.
I'm crazy, but that's where I'm cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. But so now with all this new information, and this may be like for some of the new people, but all this new information that Gary and Dane have gotten to is by me using when I was using the access speak all the time and they needed to separate, what I was doing is I was corrupting them to be my gatekeepers or my gate masters.
Okay, you have to explain these gate masters. I know what you talk about, but a lot of people might not.
Where there's people in your lives that are like your eternal jailer, so to speak. They lock you in a prison where you have to be in this internal state of judgment of yourself. And
or
it really
never
got
go any further than a certain point.
Yeah. So it was like, and anytime I would like start to grow and access, it was weird. Like my kids, I corrupted them so much with so much access speak that they would jail me, be my gate masters, so that I can see what a failure I am as a parent. This is not something that's happening consciously. They're not waking up saying, I'm going to be my father's gate master. No. It's this dynamic energy that occurs, and we do it in relationships too with our lovers. We do it with maybe if you work for a company, right? Your boss could be your gate master. Who the fuck, and it could be other lifetime stuff too. So the way to unplug from that is to destroy and uncreate all the oaths and vows, have the awareness that that's what you're creating, and stop with the fucking annoying access speak. It's annoying. They're just tools.
Yes.
And so,
most of the time, the tools we should use for ourselves and not on other people, no?
Well, it's interesting, yes, because what's interesting is people don't use it on themselves, but they force it on everybody else.
Exactly, and that's abuse, and I don't like that.
That is abuse. You
It
know,
is.
or they'll do interesting point of view. They'll be like, interesting point of view. You have that point of view, Georgie.
Oh God, I hear it so many times.
You
Interesting
know?
point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like more like they're going like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So we should use the tools on ourselves and not on our kids
Well,
and
we should be
other
the
people.
tools and shut the
We should
fuck
be
up.
the tools, yeah. Shut the fuck up, yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
And if you're a woman and you're with a man, or look, if you're in a loving relationship too, and let's say one does access, the other one doesn't, you know what a perfect way to turn their bodies off is to do access speak.
Instead of saying, honey, I have a headache tonight, just pull out your access
Just
speak.
do access speak. Totally.
Oh my
It's like,
God.
women, especially, I can say this because, you know, access is comprised of what, like 90% of the participants are women,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if they happen to be in a relationship, and these women, they'll go home and they'll fucking do access speak with their lovers, and then their lovers end up hating access because
Yeah.
all they hear is annoying speak. So if you want to make your man's dick limp, do access speak. If you want to make your woman partner's vagina go dry, access speak. Sorry,
That's a different topic we're going into.
That's another conversation.
That's gotta be another call we do on that, maybe. Okay, shall we open it up for questions? Maybe anybody has a question about anything? Or if not,
I think we fried everybody.
maybe we did, yeah. So I just say it in Hungarian, so hogyha van kérdésetek, akkor nyugodtan. Van még egy kis időnk Anthonyval. Be is írhatjátok, or maybe they can just put it in the chat if it's easier for them. Until then, can you tell us about how you're running up to Christmas with your family? Christmas is another kind of very tricky time of the year with family.
It is. And, you know, luckily for me, I just have, you know, my children here, but, you know, like my parents are in a completely different state. So we're really going to have a lot of space this year from extended families, let's say. And, you know, we were in Europe for 2 weeks, and then we went to Houston for the advanced body class. So we were away from home for like 3 weeks. So we don't even have decorations set up this year. And you know what?
Aww.
It feels wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, don't do the typical Christmas shit, and it's great.
That's exactly right. And so we didn't go and get a tree this year. The kids don't care. And you know what? We don't have to do all that work when it's over and put everything away. We're just relaxing. So
and enjoying being home.
That's right. We're just having ease. And you know what? My house, I got trees that are, you know, 14 feet tall. So I don't need to get another tree.
It's there. Go outside, it's there. Yeah, I was gonna say you're great with your garden.
Thank you. Yeah, but I have a garden inside the house too. They're like gigantic trees. So I'm like, so we're just making it easy for ourselves, and it feels incredible.
Okay, I think we have a question in the Hungarian Zoom link. But Esther, you can come into the English and say it in Hungarian. Esther, magyarul is mondhatod az angolba. Or either way. Where is she?
It's like she is only in the Hungarian. So.
Oh, maybe, yeah, I don't see her here. Yeah, that's why. Okay, so then, Christy, are you gonna tell us, or how are we gonna do this?
It would be easier if they just take themselves off of mute and ask her.
Yeah, I don't think
something.
she's in the English Zoom. I don't see her in the English Zoom.
Okay.
She might only be in the Hungarian Zoom, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe she can talk to the translator, and then the translator can translate.
Yes. Kriszti, akkor gyere be és mondd el nekünk, létszi.
I think Christy is talking with her.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they're discussing it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you said a lot of people registered for this call, right?
Yeah.
Or, a good amount. So I'm doing a free call on, I think, December 22nd, on the Universe
Yes,
Has Your
it is.
Back.
I was going to mention that at the end.
So-
Yes, and it's a free call.
Yeah, it's free. And if they got questions about it's just a call based, you know how the program
Yes.
goes. You can call and ask questions about whatever you want. So if they have questions that come up later, feel free to join us on that call. It's totally free.
On the 22nd of December.
Yes, and it's going to be 7 o'clock in the evening.
Okay, I put it
Sunday.
in the Okay.
Now let's see. I don't know which one is Christie's.
How come you don't have a picture of me on your shelf?
No, did you write a book that I could display?
You can still put a picture up. No,
I
I'm only
will.
kidding. I'm only kidding.
That's all the Access books.
Yes,
I
I know. I don't care.
Yeah.
I actually started to write a book and then I got sick of writing it. And then my ghostwriter ghosted me.
Ah,
And then I just lost the,
enthusiasm.
yeah.
Now, let's see if we have Christy coming in to tell us the question.
Until then, Anthony, you had the opening of the symphony last year in Budapest. And during this class, you were talking about so amazing when your kids started to grow up, started to step into the teenager age, and you were celebrating that. Györgyi, segítensz, ahogy
Yeah. When my older
to
son.
celebrate their
Yeah.
when they hit the teenage years. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I
it was
actually don't remember that. Esther remembers that, and I was sitting right next to her.
It was so amazing because most parents don't want to talk about these things. Just give them a book and read it and you will find it out. But it was so amazing the way you were talking about this.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Look, when I tell you I was with them every step of the way, I was with them every step of the way, and I didn't have people that I can go to when I was younger. I felt very, very alone in my journey. So, I decided I would be the opposite, which is not a question, but I'm like, I'm going to be there every step of the way. And so, yeah, that was a funny experience because I was a late bloomer. But, and my older son, I knew he was starting to go through his changes. I just didn't know how much. But then my second son, he like ran out of the bathroom. He's like, Dad. I'm like, what? He's like, I'm up here. You got to see Elijah. He's got hair all over his balls and penis. And I'm like, what? So I run upstairs and I looked at it and his whole penis, everything had turned into a man. And he had his full bush. It wasn't just like 5 little hairs. It was like a full bush. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, oh,
Let me get my lawnmower.
Yeah, exactly. Let me teach you about manscaping, as we say. And then from that moment on, okay, so here's another example. From that moment on, like I taught him about masturbation. Like I didn't show him, but I talked about it. And I'm like, hey, now I know in your generation, you can get porn on computers and stuff.
Anywhere, yeah.
And I said, please don't do that. I will go and get you Kama Sutra books because copulation and playing with bodies is a beautiful thing. And what you're going to see on porn is not necessarily creating greater possibilities. And if you do it, that's fine, but don't let that be your source. And he was there and his jaw's like, why is my father talking to me about this? And I'm like, that's what he's like you're supposed to do, right? And then what does he do? My computer gets a fucking virus because he's watching porn. and it cost me $500. And I'm like, bro, I was gonna take you to Barnes and Noble to get Kama Sutra books. So you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Then again,
Unbelievable.
you told them about the Kama Sutra books and no porn. And what do? Go to porn. Yeah.
They didn't want to know about possibilities and creating communion with the penis in the vagina or the penis in the anus or whatever the fuck. They didn't want to know about that. They wanted to do what all their friends were doing, which is watching porn.
Kids.
Right?
Yeah.
Like everything, like it all backfired. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we often say that with humanoid kids, if you want them to do something, then tell them the exact opposite. You know, like you're not allowed to read this book, you know. And then they would go and read it.
Totally. Exactly. So I should have just gotten it. And, because I even tried to say, listen, and not all the porn's bad, because sometimes you could actually watch like tantra massage, and that's actually really nice, But then the shit that they were watching was like words and unkindness to their bodies. And I'm like, whatever. You can't say I didn't try.
Yeah, they will learn by their mistakes, as we say. Yeah. Christy, are you okay to come in with that question?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a question about a mom having two kids, a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, a boy and a girl, and they still in a marriage, in a relationship, but she feels like the husband is very manipulative, and they are not in a relationship. It's more like task-based. So they're usually just like sharing what to do and where he's going to go to the husband, where he's about to go. And she realizes that actually because the husband is very manipulative, their relationship is really changed towards her. And she would like to choose something where the kids are not going to suffer from the consequences, for example, like divorce or anything, like how this is going to have the least effect on them.
Yeah, well, you have to be in the question. I can't give you the answer, the solution. So you need to pock and pod like everywhere you've already decided that getting a divorce or a separation would be bad for the kids. How do you know? How do you know that wouldn't actually demonstrate to the children that you're willing to choose for you, and that being in a relationship with someone who gaslights you, controls you, and all that is not something that is acceptable in life. Now, so you may pock and pot all your conclusions that getting a divorce would be bad, because it may make it worse by you staying in the marriage. I don't know, okay? Or you sit down with him and you say, hey, listen, this isn't working the way that we've been doing it, and we need to talk about what else is possible here. This has become a relationship where it's like the comfortable distance between two objects. We decided to make babies. Okay. Is being home together in the same household contributing to everyone? Or is it destroying things? And you need to be clear about what you want and get clear about what he wants. Because what he wants may not be what you want. And what you want may not be what he wants. So maybe you need to sit down with each other and make a deal and deliver. Like, this is what's going to work for me. No relationship is perfect. No marriage is perfect. And you need to be willing to have a conversation so you can get clear on what the both of you desire, and see then from there if it's possible to make it work. If not, then what would you like to choose?
And when, I guess.
Right. Because, see, most people fight so hard to have a normal life that they're willing to destroy themselves in the process.
Mm.
So it's like people will stay in the idea of a husband and wife, 2.5 kids and a dog, but they're
And
miserable.
a car and a house.
Right. And some debt.
Yes.
Like, is that really a generative, environment to raise kids in? Right? Or seeing both parents happy, but they may not be in the same house together. Or at
Mm.
least one parent happy. So,
Questions to ask and conversations to have.
correct. But my point of view is that when you're in relationship, whether you're with children or not, and it's like long term, you need to talk with each other and check in and look at, because things change, people change, our bodies change. And you have to be willing to both be vulnerable with each other enough to look at everything. But again, a lot of people are not willing to do that for whatever reason. And be willing to change things, alter the contract so that it works for both of you. And if it can't, then move on. That's my point. I don't believe until death do us part. I don't believe that. That sucks.
That's the fairy tale ending.
Well, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be in a miserable, abusive relationship till the day I die.
Till death do us apart.
And my kids
after.
are going and the kids are going to get to witness their father being abusive to me.
No.
So, that point of view is a very old one, but people still live by that, especially religious folks.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
I think
choice.
we wrap up here and we let you go. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. And
Thank you, Georgie. Thanks for
a
having me.
lovely, lovely holiday.
You
and
too.
a relaxing holiday.
Thank you.
And whoever is interested in continuing this or any other conversation, then we can meet Anthony on the 22nd, 7 o'clock Hungarian time in your monthly membership, which is going to be free and open for everybody that day.
Awesome. Thanks, Georgie.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
translators. Bye, everybody.
See you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.